Hello and welcome to the Retro Hour podcast, episode number 81, your weekly dose of retro gaming and technology news with me, Dan Wood.
And me, Ravi Abbott.
Now, if you are new to the Retro Hour, we are the show that covers anything retro gaming related on this show. We're talking stuff like Sega,
Atari, oh God, I was thinking about the N-Gage the other day.
You were actually, we were talking about that on Facebook, weren't we?
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, Sega, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, Commodore, Sinclair, Amstrad, anything that's retro, anything with a chip in it, anything you used to play video games on is fair fodder on this show. And I think it's quite important to mention that because our special guest, who's coming up in the second half of today's show, has got quite a broad range of machines that he's been interested in over the years. Anything from like the Spectrum up to the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2. Because today we're going to be joined by Guru Larry.
Yes, Guru Larry has done amazing stuff. He kind of was a contestant on like nearly every single British games TV show. I don't know how he did it. He must have wrote really good application letters. But he was basically on Games World and, head to head with Violet Berlin, and he got to the kind of grand finals. So this is going to be a great interview. And he's got an amazing YouTube channel at the moment.
And it was always our dream, as young lads, to meet Violet Berlin as well. So.
Oh, yeah.
And totally. He got there.
He got there. He did it. And he met Big Boy Barry and all of the others.
So this is going to be a really interesting one. Guru Larry, who you may know from the Fact Hunt series on YouTube. They're really good. Larry Bundy Jr., who's known as on YouTube. He's going to be our special guest in the second half of today's show. And we just want to say a massive, massive thank you to the people who keep this show going week in, week out. Because, doing this show, it takes time. It does take money. We've got to have costs involved in this. And it's always nice if, Ravi and I don't have to foot the complete bill for the show. So thank you very much to the kind people who've made donations to the Retro Hour podcast running this week. And making the Hall of Fame this week,
Rob Llewellyn, UK.
John Dickman.
G. Lydion.
And Anthony Clark, who all made donations via our website at theretrohour.com. You can do the same. We've got a little PayPal link there. All you've got to do is type your email address in. It takes seconds to do that?
Yeah, and it kind of means I can afford cat food every week, so it's quite good.
You don't have to spend your money on the podcast instead, yeah. We don't actually spend the show donations on Ravi's cat food. Just clear that up.
My cat's not like that fat.
Not an official part of the show, just yet. And also, we've been continuing this little thing we started last week, listener letters. And again, like I did in last week's show, they printed out on proper
You've
paper.
got paper, but also we've had a few listener videos. I don't know if you've spotted them.
This is not just paper. Have you felt this? Printed on card.
Oh, wow. You've gone up in the world.
That didn't come out of listener donations either, just so. So we have got a few messages through this week. We were kind of asking, weren't we, for people to show us where you listen to the Retro Hour podcast, because we've had some great pictures and videos, and we've had a few more.
Yeah. So we had Marvin Drugsman, who's a friend of the show, and he's walking his dog, kind of avoiding picking up the poos, he said in the video, but that's where he listens to the Retro Hour. And we had another one, which was SF Drummer, and he is near Wootton Bassett, actually, which is the army bases around there. Yeah, and he's on a nice evening walk, kind of listening to the Retro Hour on his phone.
And we've had a few more on our email as well. Danielle Lynch has been in touch. He goes, hey guys, I listen to your show on a Sunday morning as I meet the missus. I have to get a train or two to get there. I normally crack open a beer or two and enjoy. Other times, if I have a dodgy curry, I listen to it on the toilet straight after, usually for the whole show.
My God, what a curry that must be.
An hour-long curry.
We've got one from Adam Wade as well,
yep,
which has got a nice picture of an Apple Watch with the Retro Hour kind of logo on it. And it says, driving around selling wines in the national capital, Canberra. Actually, Woodin, Canberra.
Yeah, so, in Australia.
Australia, yeah. We've got a far reach, Dan.
I love that, because I've got an Apple Watch and I've never actually listened to, audio on the watch, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it comes up with a title and everything.
And the final one we got is from James and Colin and the team at letstalkretro.com. Now, these guys have actually been making their own game boxes for loose cars, including stuff like the N64 in particular they concentrate on. And they've got a website called thecoverproject.net. They do inlays for DVDs, and after actually some game scans as well. They haven't got a full collection of game scans, so they're after a few. If you want to get in touch with them, letstalkretro@gmail.com. If you want to find out a bit more, thecoverproject.net as well. It's always cool because, if you lose your original boxes and that kind of thing, it's nice to have reproduction.
And I remember about 14 weeks ago, actually, they did a nice little video on Instagram, and we never mentioned it, and they were sitting there and they were saying, this is how we listen to the Retro Hour. So they were ahead of their time.
About a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, far before we did this. And it was actually with Amazon Echo. So they just shouted, "Retro Hour!" And it came alive and played. It was great.
Yeah, because you found that on Instagram. Ravi's like, oh, these guys have done it. And we're like, that's 43 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You guys saw the future.
Yeah, totally.
So really nice to hear from you lot. And if you want to get in touch as well, if you ever want to get a mention on the show, we read emails out at the start of each week's show. All you got to do is drop us a message. show@theretrohour.com is our email address. Now, before we get to Guru Larry, I want to give a little shout out to a paper magazine.
Ooh.
All about the Commodore 64. Now, obviously, we love paper.
Yep.
This is Paul Kitching, who's actually done the design on this. You all know Paul, actually. The guy who did the Retro Hour logo. He's done movies like Viva Amiga. Probably the most talented 3D artist in the retro community. And he's involved in a magazine called Reset 64. And these guys are actually celebrating their 10th issue. It's fully printed, 72 pages of full colour, essentially like a modern-day, full glossy Commodore 64 magazine with games reviews, modern Commodore 64 games, developer interviews, pokes and cheats as well, just like back in the day. And they're actually going to be releasing their 10th issue in August. So pre-orders are available now if you'd like to get a good old-school Commodore 64 magazine in the post.
So this is one that you actually order online, you get sent to your house, it's professionally printed, and you kind of get that new magazine smell.
Oh, can't beat that smell, can you?
Oh, gorgeous.
I used to love that freshly printed mag. So if you want to order that, we'll put that in this week's show notes. Now, speaking of big new media releases this week, when did we first talk about Ready Player One movie? That was probably about over a year ago now.
Oh, God, yeah. And, this is just the start of these video game movies because Console Wars is going to be coming out. It's all coming mainstream. You think retro is mainstream? Now wait for 2 years. It's going to be absolutely insane. And this trailer is just fantastic. I was watching it and it's kind of got the vision of how I wanted it to look. Everybody who's read the book, you get your own kind of vision in your head of what the VR is going to look like. And the kind of idea of how the city looks, it's fantastic.
Well, for people that may not have read the book, explain just dead quickly what the story is.
The story's about a kind of society that's just completely gods apart and people are living in caravans stacked upon each other. And they're kind of, the only place to escape is this virtual reality world called the Oasis. Now, the creator of the Oasis left some code in there, Easter eggs, just like in the old computer games. But they're all based on the old computer games. And they give you special abilities and kind of powers in this world. So you can become this, ultimate badass, basically, if you solve the riddle.
Okay.
And that's all based on old computer game stuff like Joust and all of the kind of old stuff. Now, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this trailer as well, kind of leading to it. So it's got a lot of people excited.
Well, this is Steven Spielberg, who's directed the film, so we're talking big league. This trailer's been released at Comic-Con in America. And like you said, the releases. It's only about 2 minutes long. You've got Simon Pegg stars in this film, Olivia Cook, some really big stars.
It's it's one of the biggest selling novels of recent times. And the second book, Armada, which he's completed and I've read, they've already bought the rights of that, Spielberg. So there's going to be a follow-on.
Well, even looking through this, 2 minutes here, someone's actually made a list of some of the Easter eggs that are in there. You got Freddie, Duke Nukem appears in there, the Atari logo, the Back to the Future DeLorean. It's all kinds of things
just even the chase scene. You've got Akira going through there with DeLorean car, and it's just wow.
And apparently, someone said, has no one noticed Dizzy talking to Lara Croft at 1 minute 20? Quite interesting. I might have to look at that again.
And there's all kind of references to Back to the Future, of course, 88 miles per hour and all of this stuff.
Yeah, so, if you like our show and you're into retro, this is going to be just all your dreams come true in one movie, I imagine, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was a bit about the soundtrack and, some people are saying the trailer's bad and that, but I say, wait till you see the movie. The book was probably one of the best books I've read in years. So even if the movie's rubbish, I recommend read the novel.
I mean, the trailer is very, contemporary movie trailer style, isn't it? It's a lot of boom.
Yeah, but then it also has that kind of little Spielberg, ding, ding, ding. The kind of little noises that he does, Encounters of a Close Kind, or the early kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you've even got the E.T. going across the moon at the beginning and stuff.
Yeah. Amberlin Studios and all that. Yeah.
That always makes me nostalgic to see that logo. So,
totally.
Yeah, we look forward to this. Movie's not out till next year, but if you want to check out the trailer, we'll put that in this week's show notes at theretrohour.com. Now, a lot of people have been going crazy over this rumour that's been doing the rounds. Microsoft were killing off Paint after 32 years.
Paint, the old trusty program. I still can't do screen caps without using Paint to save it.
I think that's what 99% of Paint usage is all about, isn't it? Or just cropping things.
Cropping
it's quite
things,
easy for that. I mean, people have been going mad about this. This story, I mean, it's been picked up by like the BBC, The Guardian, and I've been seeing it all over Facebook today. Some people have been saying, I've actually archived my own version off my hard disk and uploading it onto my cloud server. So when Microsoft delete it, when the update, I can re-download it and install it again.
Unofficial Paint.
Yeah, they can take it from my cold, dead hands. But it turns out that Microsoft have kind of relented and said, all right, if you want Paint, you're going to be able to keep it now.
Yeah, they've said, they suggested it will not remain in Windows 10 by default and it will just be free on the store. But I think they've kind of turned around and said, yeah, we're amazed. They said, if there's anything we've learned, it's after 32 years, MS Paint has a lot of fans.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it was pretty crap until, like, Windows 7 or Vista, really, wasn't it? And
Well,
it still is,
yeah,
kind of.
they kind of... Do they have blurring in it and stuff? I don't even know.
I remember, I mean, at one stage, it could only save BMP files, couldn't it?
Yeah, I remember that was the only use for BMP files, was kind of really badly ported games, the texture maps on there. I put them into Paint and then kind of change the textures to be like something rude and then put it into like the old Road Rash or something.
Well, I had like, on my Amiga 1200, I think I got like a BMP data type.
Yeah.
So I could load them into PPaint and all that kind of thing, but it never worked very well. My heart used to sink whenever I got something with a BMP file. I was like, no, I haven't got Paint.
It was good for making icons. I remember that little icons and shortcut kind of stuff. That was always fun on Paint.
Well, it is like a bitmap editor, really, isn't it? But I mean, people have been like losing their marbles over this story that, it might be going. And but I mean, there are better alternatives out there. Paint.net.
Totally, yeah.
Which is really good. Fan View, I use as well on Windows.
I was always a fan of Deluxe Paint, but I'm kind of Amiga biased there because, Paint came a lot later. But the pixel precision was so good.
Yeah, I mean, Paint didn't hold a candle to D-Paint, did it?
No.
It's like, that had animation and everything in it. But so if you had been really upset that Paint was going to be killed off after 32 years, you're going to be able to download it.
You'll be all right.
You'll be fine.
And also, they're releasing 3D Paint. I don't know how.
Yeah, Paint 3D.
It just,
Yeah.
Just looks like emojis and yeah.
Well, that's apparently in, the Windows 10 Creator update. I've not tried it yet, but
I downloaded the Creator today. I might have a go. I just got Bubble Witch Saga and all of that stuff installed on my system instead.
you'll be taking your screen grabs in 3D.
Yeah.
Now, this is quite a weird story that I found in the week. We talk about like people finding weird stuff in their attics or the basements. It might be like an Amiga we've been talking about recently. A few people we now found Amiga 500s. This takes some topping. A scrap dealer has found an Apollo-era NASA mainframe computer in a dead engineer's basement.
Oh my God. Apollo era as well. That's going to be like, less powerful than your phone and an absolute beast.
Less powerful than your phone 15 years ago, probably,
Yeah.
I bet Nokia 3310 could like outshine this thing. But it's really interesting. I mean, so they found this in the basement of a guy who passed away and apparently used to work at NASA. He was an engineer there. And when they're cleaning his house out, they found a pair of really big old NASA computers dating from the early 70s, late 60s.
Cool.
And they reckon that, that there are tapes here as well with like program on them, program code that were used on the Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11 voyages that, the flyby missions to Jupiter and Saturn. So they reckon it, probably contained something like the source code or something that ran those probes. Now, they're all labelled NASA property. And, the guy who was the heir to the engineer who died basically said, it wasn't stolen. This guy got permission from NASA to take it home and all that. What's quite curious is, though, this article's been picked up by Ars Technica and other websites recently, even though this discovery was made in 2015. So it was a couple of years ago. But there is a quote here from a guy who works, his job is archiving, like the digital past, essentially. Mm-hmm. And his recommendation was, there is no evidence that suggests any material is historically significant. I recommend disposal through immediate destruction of all magnetic tapes. And then they've done a little bit more.
That's from an archive guy.
This is from a guy whose job it is to archive data.
Okay.
And he said, essentially, I'll just burn them.
Yeah.
Okay, but weird. And then, apparently, like the NASA computers are labelled with a contract number, which is NAS5 2154. And they've been looking into NASA's archives, and apparently there's no record of any contract ever being made.
Ooh, this could be, all the NASA secrets, the meeting with aliens on a real tape.
All a bit dodgy, isn't it?
Yeah.
A NASA code that doesn't exist anymore, and someone suggesting immediate destruction of these tapes.
Get them out
weird.
there.
Well, someone says here, NASA once accidentally erased the Apollo 11 moon landing tape, so maybe this shouldn't come as much of a surprise that they've lost the code. So, yeah, quite interesting. Apparently, Ars Technica have contacted NASA for some information, but the spokesman said they've got nothing further to say.
Well, I remember watching a small documentary about NASA using an Amiga.
Yeah.
And they're basically, I think it was a 2000, they just left it under a table processing kind of maps of the planets.
Yeah.
And just scanning the circuits. But they left it on for 10 years. And it didn't crash. Just go in.
I think they bought more. I remember reading it. There's actually a website about it. They got 2 Amiga 4000s as well a bit later.
Cool.
And they were doing rocket launches.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And apparently the guys at NASA were like, it doesn't run MS-DOS and that. We don't know what it is. It's weird. Get it out.
Yeah.
But they kept it for about 10 years until they were forced to replace it.
And probably just permanently on, chugging away, doing calculations.
Yeah, so some very weird technology at NASA. But some other people are saying in the comments that, this was found in like a mouldy basement. And there might be like fungus on the tapes that people don't want to breathe in and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a biological hazard. That might be why they can't do it. But you think, if this
Asbestos in there.
this guy's job is archiving stuff, you think, what could be more interesting than these tapes?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something very sus about all this, I think. Now, before we get to this week's interview with Larry Bundy, have you seen this? The recreated ZX Spectrum has been selling in game for $29.99.
You linked me to this earlier, and I was walking around game going, oh, where is this Spectrum? I was trying to look for it, and I couldn't find one anywhere. But it's really weird. It's like a full recreated Spectrum, but what is it? It's not a key. It's just a keyboard, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, this has actually been out since around 2014, 15. I think we did mention it on one of our first shows. We were talking about, using this on the train with like an iPad or something.
But why use the Spectrum? Because the rubber keys were notoriously annoying,
Well, what this does, it used to sell. People were like saying, this is a really good bargain, like for $29.99. And actually looking at GameSite now, it's gone up to $49.99. So it looks like the price has kind of popped up again. But, over the weekend, they were selling it for 30 quid. But I put, like, my postcode in, and I couldn't find any stock locally anywhere at all. But apparently this comes with, like, an emulator as part of the package. You put a code in on, like, the App Store or on the Play Store, and it downloads an emulator. You can then connect this as a Bluetooth keyboard to. So essentially have your kind of Spectrum experience.
Oh, cool. Well, I guess you could, like, rip the hell out of it and mod it and put a Raspberry Pi in there. And, if that's 30 quid or whatever. I think 50 quid's a bit steep at the moment, to be honest. But
they were apparently 80 quid like a year or two back. So, just for having, it is a pretty faithful reproduction of the original.
No, it definitely looks like an old Spectrum,
So some people were saying, you can just shove a Raspberry Pi or something in there and, use it like as an updated Spectrum, which for that, for the sake of 30 quid, I think just having something that, to use a case or whatever is probably quite cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I think they're dipping their toes into the old console market here as well, maybe.
Well, it was weird because, the front page of Game over the weekend, that was their lead product on the website on Saturday. And I was seeing it in all the Spectrum groups, people can just pick one up, even though it's crap. I didn't know no use for it, but for 30 quid, it's an impulse buy, isn't it?
You can go to the shop, buy Crash Bandicoot, play on your Spectrum, typing other stuff, and then go and watch Ready Player One.
Have a go Micro Machines updated after that as well. Just pretend the last 20 or 30 years have never happened.
Yeah, just ignore it all.
That's why we do this show. Right then, guys, thank you for checking out episode number 81 of the Retro Hour podcast. We'll be out again next Friday. Your little treat for the weekend, available from all of your favourite podcast clients. Please do keep your emails coming in as well. show@theretrohour.com if you'd like something mentioning at the start of next week's show. And now, this guy is one of our favourite YouTubers, a guy with such a rich, interesting history in British computer games and video games and television. Here he is, this week's special guest, Guru Larry, is our guest on this week's podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Ciao.
You're listening to the Retro Hour podcast, and it is our favourite bit of the show. Let's welcome on this week's very special guest, the legend that is Guru Larry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, at long last.
Yes.
We've wanted to get Larry on for ages. We watch you on YouTube for so long.
You asked me then, shouldn't you?
We thought, we just let it simmer for a while and let the excitement build. So, Larry, this is a question that we like to ask all of our guests, to find out a little bit about your background.
Yes.
What's your earliest gaming or computer experience then?
I think it's playing Combat on the Atari VCS.
Oh, wow.
I think that's the very earliest one I can personally think of. My older brother brought one home with his first wages from W.H. Smith's. I remember that. And we played on that. And I remember we were so poor in those days, we had to rent the cartridges from our local TV repair shop. So I remember that. Yeah, but Combat's the very first game I can remember actually playing. This is like 1982, about 1982. My other brother had a Spectrum, his grand bought for him, but he was into army clothes and stuff like that at the time as well, so he sold it to buy a load of army gear. He never joined the army, he just had a load of army combat.
Quite trendy for a while, though, wasn't it? You know,
yeah, it was. Well, in the early 80s, yeah. You can...
So what was the game that you kind of completely caned when you were a kid, you know, played it so much?
As a kid, I can't remember. I played quite a few. The first computer I personally owned was an Amstrad. And the bundle games, I think I remember more than anything, like Roland in the Caves and Roland in the Caves, Roland on the Ropes, Roland Needs a Kidney. Just those games are the ones I can remember. I never be able to play them. I don't think you could physically actually complete them properly.
Yeah, a lot of games back then, they just like, you know, kept going forever or loop back round, didn't they?
Yeah,
Just not knowing to do it.
I remember being so... I spent ages and ages trying to complete Roland on the Ropes. And the time I'd done it, and it just looped back to the same level again, I was heartbroken.
Or said, like, play it all backwards or something.
Yeah, or can you do it again? Sometimes it'd say that. No, I don't want to.
Do it slightly harder.
So did you have the green screen monitor then, or were you...
No, I was lucky enough to have the proper colour one, thankfully. I only had a 464.
Yeah, they were cool machines though, actually, because people are doing quite a lot of stuff on the Amstrad now, aren't they? And
they are.
We've been seeing, people porting stuff. Because I mean, back then it got a lot of Spectrum ports, didn't it?
That's all. Yeah.
I remember caning Rampage on that.
I was talking about that on Twitter the other day. Somebody brought it up. For some strange reason, it's got the music to the game, to the arcade game Trojan on it, but it never had a Amstrad port Trojan.
That's weird.
Yeah.
It's for the music line around or something then.
Yeah, they said the music to a game that was never released on the Amstrad. I thought, let's put it on there, nobody will notice.
So were you mainly computers then when you were a kid, or did you get into consoles a bit later?
I got for Christmas 1987, I got a Master System. And that's really sort of my love of proper console games carried on. I mean, I still played the Atari. I mean, every now and then we used to find games in the wild and that for a couple of quid. Stuff like that, and there's a kid at school who was selling his off for like £1 each, and I bought a load of him and stuff like that. But yeah, the Master System is really, I got my love for sort of proper console gaming.
And of course, when you went on to consoles, it meant, you know, getting all legal games as well.
Well, you could in those days, like Woolworths used to keep the cartridges in the boxes on their shelves. So I mean, if that's the way of piracy, if that's what you mean, finger piracy, yeah.
Well, of course, you would have had Alex the Kid if you didn't have any other games.
Oh, yeah, that's a legal requirement for any Master System owner to have an Alex Kidd. My Master System didn't have anything built in, apart from that snail maze, if that counts.
Next, I had a friend who he literally only had, like, you know, the Master System 2 with Alex Kidd built in for like 6 months. It's the only game. His parents didn't buy many games with it, so... So what about, like, after that then? Was it Mega Drive, Super Nintendo?
It was... No, I actually bought a NES from a kid at school. I remember that. I bought one from him, and then I got a Japanese Mega Drive about a week before the official release came out, because I really didn't want Altered Beast as a pack-in game. I mean, it looks nice, but it plays like arse, really, Altered Beast. So I got eSWAT and New Zealand Story in mine instead.
Was that at NTSC as well, then?
It was a PAL-modified NTSC machine. And it went all. You can still play NTSC games. You can play it in NTSC mode, but just hold down the reset button for some reason. There's like a bug in it. If you hold the reset button down, it plays the NTSC.
I remember the Japanese Mega Drive, though, was always like the holy grail. You'd see it in like gaming shops, and you could tell a difference because it had like purple, you know, instead of the white, didn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
the big gold text with 16 bits as sort of the tiny little sort of Arial font as on the Western one.
Yeah,
I remember being so distraught about that. That's the thing that disappointed me the most about the Western Mega Drive, was a tiny text.
Just didn't like scream as much power, did it?
No, it didn't. I mean, it's supposed to be designed after sort of the style of a Ferrari or a Porsche. That's why it's sort of sleek in style like that. I mean, it's still quite nice looking by today's standards, really, isn't it? I mean,
well, so did you have people come round and say, "Why is Sonic running faster on your machine?"
Oh no, I didn't get Sonic till long after. I mean, we were sort of Mickey Mouse and stuff long before Sonic came along. But no, nobody was really that excited about playing the Mega Drive more. I mean, it's only the only thing it was a new console more than, wow, look how powerful it is. And
did you ever own any like systems that you thought were going to be massive and then turned out to be like complete flops?
No, I purposely bought machines because they were flops and that, just out of curiosity. I love playing sort of bombed consoles and stuff like that. I mean, I still do now. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything that I actually bought that did bomb, really. I mean, Omega CD, really, if that counts. and the 32X and stuff like that. But they're more add-ons in consoles.
Dan just bought one last week.
Yeah, I got a 32X last week.
Oh, they're bloody expensive now.
Oh, if I'd have got one like 3 years ago, they're like a tenner. Yeah, they're like about 90 quid now. Yeah, 90 quid.
I'd the head of them exists now because of angry video game reviewers keep smashing them up for a laugh.
Oh, yeah. When you watch him back now in the set fight, that AVGN episode when he burns it at the end, you're like, I'd have had that.
Yeah, what are you doing?
But, you know, speaking of like failed systems, I remember like kids at school who like, you know, bought like Philips CDIs and stuff like that. And they seemed like, you know, so futuristic at the time when CD technology came around, didn't it?
Or you could have an entire shelf of encyclopedias on one CD. Wow, the future's here.
Did you ever kind of get to play on a Neo Geo? Or no,
I did. I had one. Well, I had a sort of I don't know if it was sort of second-hand, my one, because one of the joysticks I bought had a big, massive crack down the middle of it. I remember that. But yeah, I had one. I bought World Heroes and King of the Monsters 2. And then I didn't buy anything for years for it until like CEX started selling Neo Geo games off for £40 each.
They were like, you know, at school, they were like all the, you know, the millionaire kids had Neo Geos. We'd never even seen one. We'd just heard about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. It's like having an arcade machine in your house, really, wasn't it?
It's a shame they don't really sort of have anything similar to that nowadays, really. I mean, I think the closest thing really is like PC gaming with like a 1080i Ti graphics card in it or something. That's the closest to sort of Rolls Royce of game playing now, isn't it?
So, as a kid, were you kind of immersed in the video games world? Did you like have a certain magazine that you liked, or a certain show that you watched?
I sort of grabbed anything that took my fancy, really. I mean, I was lucky enough to have sort of all the machines because I had a granddad die on me, and he had a sort of bit of money left over, so I bought a couple of consoles and stuff like that from that money from my will. But I used to get most quite a few magazines and that. CVG and Me machines are probably my favourites. I thought Total was a bit crap, to be honest. I never really got on with Total.
The gills appealed in CVG to me.
Well, in hindsight, CVG is a bit rubbish because, like, if you go to every single review, like, nothing's ever under 80%.
Yeah,
like every single game is brilliant, you know.
And whether they want to give like Rise of the Robots like 80% or something, wouldn't they? Yeah.
I used to get excited. It's like brilliant from the Fast Show, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, obviously back then, I mean, you know, gaming TV was a big thing as well. I mean, you know, which gaming TV shows did you watch?
Well, I watched the usual ones like Games Master, Games World, and that. And I used to watch the more obscure ones on like the Children's Channel. They had Head to Head, which I was on, and there was a show on the BBC called Total Reality. I don't know if you remember that. That was a video game review show, but there's like 10-second clip of it on YouTube, and that's all there is that exists of it now, and they're quite sad about that. But the main thing I remember that show is they gave away the competition for the entire series to win a Panasonic M2.
Well, and that never came out.
Yeah, I just wonder who's a poor sod who won that and didn't get anything.
Win the Connex multi-system.
that was in a Complete Guide to Consoles, wasn't it? You could win a Connex.
They always have it in the terms and conditions, don't they? Like, you know, prize we may offer a substitute prize.
A bit like Bullseye, isn't it? Really? You come over a boat.
Well, you mentioned that you appeared on Violet Berlin's Head to Head. How did that happen then? And I kind of don't know about that show. What was it like?
Oh, well, I've got loads of episodes on my YouTube channel if you have a look at it.
No,
it's one of those shows. I used to watch it on telly, and they used to have actually, no, tell a lie. Beforehand, they had a game show completely based around Super Mario games. Super Mario Challenge, it was called. And there was at the end of the show, if you'd like to appear on a future episode, please write into this PO box address, that thing. So I did that, and they said, oh, sorry, the show's ending, but we got this new show coming on. Would you like to be on that? And I said, obviously, yes. And I did. So the first time I went on there, I got completely slaughtered because they're playing Super Kickoff on the Mega Drive. And I can't stand football games. I actually hate top-down football games. But I thought, I'll apply a go on again. Mate, hopefully, it's not some sort of thing, you one chance, you're blown it. But I went on again, they play Rock and Roll Racing. And Rock and Roll Racing, it's one of those, have you ever had a game that you're freakishly good at? There's this one game that you're really, really good at, and by total chance, Rock and Roll Racing was the game I was really, really good at.
But I've seen that clip on your YouTube channel of when you're playing kickoff and Violet Berlin's talking to you and you're like, no, I hate football. I don't play it at school. She keeps going.
It's quite distracting when somebody's trying to talk to you and you're being polite and you're trying to concentrate on the game. But I'm trying to bloody play it.
So that was in real time then while you play the game?
Wow. It was. That's if you notice on the second time I'm on, when it's on the spinny head brain thing. She stopped talking to the contestants because they must have got complaints about that, distracting them all the time and that. But yeah, but the only reason I lost because she told me the wrong buttons for the penalties. So, so that's why if you look at me, I got a face like a smacked ass at the end. So.
Yeah, you didn't look impressed.
No.
Well, Rav and I were saying it was, as kids, it was always our dream to meet Violet Berlin. So you got to that stage.
I met her a couple of times. Yeah, she's lovely. Yeah, she's really nice in real life. I mean, I still speak to her as well all the time. She follows me on Twitter and stuff like that. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you appeared later and you came back and won a mountain bike.
I did. Yeah. I still got it. It's stuck behind the shed. So I don't. It's probably the rust holding it together now. But yeah, I still got that thing. So.
I remember applying to go on like kids' TV shows. I think I applied to go on Finders Keepers.
Oh yeah,
with Neil Buchanan. I think I hosted that. Nightmare. It didn't get on that either. So
I was on It's a Bitzer. Do you remember that?
It's a Bitzer. No.
Yeah, it's like a weird science kids TV. Yeah, wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Well, what did your mates think when you were on telly then? You must have become quite famous at school for a bit then, did you?
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, they sort of pointed me out and stuff like that. I remember when I was on Games World, I went on holiday the week I aired, and I went in an arcade and there's a motorbike game I went on, and there was all these kids standing behind me laughing. Oh, look, there's a fat bloke on a motorbike and that. And I turned around and stared at them, and they recognised me instantly, and it looked like I pulled a gun on them, their face. I just remember that, and they just went really quiet and just walked out the arcade.
I bet everyone else in the arcade is like, what was that about?
And also another kid recognised me in Hastings as well. And instead of sort of going hello there and that, she just pointed at me. It's like invasion of body snatches and that.
It's you.
Yeah. So yeah, I always get that. So.
And did you ever apply to go on Games Master?
I did.
Okay.
Unfortunately, actually, I went. I auditioned for the second series to play. They was looking for somebody just for a challenge to play Joe and Mac on the Super Nintendo. I remember that, and. But it was a bit unfair, really, because they gave me such an unrealistic chance. It's literally impossible to get to the boss on the first level in the time limit they gave me. So I couldn't. So I literally failed it. And when they did have it on television, they gave the person about 2 extra minutes to complete the level. So that was a bit unfair.
Well, we had like Dave Perry on last year, and he was telling us some stories about how they'd often do like several retakes, to get the scene they want.
For TV, wasn't it, rather than the game?
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you look at the clip of me when I was on Games World playing against Martin Mathers. He complained his joystick wasn't working when I was playing 1080 snowboarding, and you can actually see jump cuts where the joystick in his hands have changed colour as well. So he was absolutely right. It definitely was fixed. A lot of it. I mean, they even asked me if I could lose to a girl. And I was quite offended by that because I auditioned to be on that show at least 3 times and that, being rejected previously. And I said, I've got all this far and that. You're not going to kick me off and that, not be offering me anything. So I said no to that.
I find it pretty amazing that you've still got footage of all this stuff because when I was a kid...
Oh, yeah, I'm neurotic about recording everything.
Yeah, I'd lose everything,
In those days, you could actually write to the company and ask for copies of the master tape as well. So, like, all the ones I've got on there are like the original master copies. Without all the adverts and stuff like that as well. And
do you remember when you first went into the studio then? Were you quite nervous at the time?
Which studio was this?
Games World then, when you first went on the set?
I was so frightened I remember throwing up the day before going in there. So that's how nervous I was. Wow. But it was quite a massive set it was. It looked like something out of the Crystal Maze as well.
But you come across very confident and very cheeky on the show when you watch it back, though.
Oh yeah, I was just pissing about. I thought, it's my only chance of being on telly. Might have a laugh and that.
Yeah, I love you kind of shaking your fist at the guys and all that kind of stuff. It's really getting into the vibe of it.
I was just asking about and that. Yeah, so you either get the one or the kids who are quiet, their arms crossed all the time, or the cocky ones who go, I'm the best gamer here and that. I'll knock him out in the first round and stuff like that. And I just didn't want to do that. I just want to.
But then when you look back on those ones, they're the ones that look ridiculous now, aren't they?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It must have been quite a change as well, because you were kind of 18 when you went onto Games World, and before you were much younger when you were on Head to Head. So
it's about 3-4 years and that, yeah.
Yeah, so seeing the different kind of perspectives, how was that?
Well, Hewland's far more professional than the Children's Channel was. I mean, it was literally the back of an office for the Children's Channel show, Head to Head. It was literally an old house, an old mansion in St John's Wood. They filmed it in.
So after doing that then, did that kind of give you a taste to do gaming television of your own then?
Well, no, going on television myself, that was just complete pure chance. I mean, nobody ever asked me back or anything. So we like your stuff and that. And I never had that. There was when I went on television for the first time, there was somebody wrote on the Brit Xbox forums. They were looking for somebody to deal on this show called Game Guru. And if anybody interested, and everybody else was taking the piss out of this poor sod doing it. You know, you go on television, that it was all rubbish in that. And I thought, I might as well do it. And I got the job. So basically, I got the job because nobody else applied for it.
by default.
Yeah.
Well, did you have like any presenting experience, or did you just like kind of wing it then?
Oh, I'll wing it. I mean, the very first episode, I actually made up half the cheats on the episode because I couldn't. They didn't. They just literally just pushed me straight out. It's literally just being, pushed off into the deep end of a swimming pool.
And this was broadcast on Sky as well.
It was broadcast live on the Sky
live
as well.
Oh,
so I was sitting there trying to think. No phone calls are coming in, so I was making up people coming in and making phone calls and stuff like that. So I made it up the whole first episode. Second episode, there was massive lag, so that nothing was happening when I was on television. And my mum comes in the room, says, the television, it's not working, nothing's happened. I turned around and went, for fuck's sake, I can hear it on television. And then I heard it 30 seconds later when I turned around. I just went dead cold. I thought, I am getting sacked for this.
Just you, frozen.
Yeah, I am getting sacked for swear. First thing I done was swear on my first job and my second episode. And I thought, oh, God, I'm getting sacked after this. But no, they never did. So I carried on like that.
They might not have been watching.
No, the manager, the guy in charge, my boss's boss, actually got sacked from the network for for pasting a picture of an erect penis on screen non-stop for 3.5 hours. Right. So he got sacked for that, and then he got cut, and he asked back on that because nobody else could find any better than him. So I remember that, yeah. But that's how I got onto Game Guru, and that's how I got the sort of Guru Larry name as well.
You stuck with it all this time then, that name?
Yes, well, that's what I'm known as now. I mean, when I started on YouTube and that, I was still technically on the channel doing that stuff. So I was trying to do some sort of synchronicity of being on television and the internet at the same time, and the name Guru Larry just stuck. The only reason I'm using Larry Bundy, my real name now on YouTube, is because I've got so many other channels under the Guru Larry name, so I couldn't keep calling it that. So.
Well, we have a strange connection as well. You and Dan were both on Rapture TV as well.
I didn't know Larry was, though, because this must have been a similar time. I was on about maybe 2005, 6. They still like a dance music show on there. I haven't kept any tapes of it.
They owe you money, do they?
I haven't kept any recordings of it, though. And, but you're on there as well, then, around the same time?
Yeah, they had a show called Gamers.
Yeah.
I went on there and I showed off my Daytel Supergun and... I think some other stuff. Vectrix, I think I showed off.
Oh, nice.
They used to borrow sort of Gamescom. They also had a thing beforehand where they were showing off games consoles. They kept giving like old people them to play and see what they more thought of them, like hilarious type thing. And I used to lend them my consoles for stuff like that.
Oh, was that online and on Sky as well?
Sky it was on, yeah. Virgin and stuff.
Well, you entered the world of esports, on kind of a channel, X League as well, yeah. And you had a proper segment as well. I did. Larry's Retro Corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That was actually the world's first retro gaming show as well on television.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's my claim to fame. Beforehand, I was wanting to go on there as a contestant on their esports thing. But basically, the original idea of the channel was to get these people on and then make them celebrities themselves. So basically like really early Let's Play thing or something. But so they get all this talent there. But they realise that none of these people who are really good at games had any personality whatsoever. So, I mean, they used to get so angry that they used to have a proper interview with them before and after the match. And all they used to do was like give one-word answers.
Yeah, great.
And yeah. So what do you think? Would you really enjoy that match? Yeah. Stuff like that. So I used to get really angry. So I suggested to go on there as a sort of a stooge to sort of antagonise everyone, to rile them up, to give them a sort of character and that. Sort of like the Games World Videators type thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was after. Yeah, but they didn't fall. They come through in the end. So they said, "Oh, you can have your own show instead." And I only got that show because the other guy got sacked who was going to do it. A guy called Alan. He's a YouTube channel called Team VVV.
Oh, he's still doing it, is he? Okay, unusual.
No, he does YouTube now. He does he got into esports for racing games and stuff like that. Alan Boyston, that's it, lovely bloke. You should interview him, actually. He's quite an interesting person.
Yeah, worth a share.
Yeah, he does all this sort of racing tour esports players and stuff like that, and he was working on that at the time. And he also worked on the other GamerWeb, maybe, or something. It was on another channel.
Cyberweb, was it?
There's that many of them around, wasn't there?
It basically is a rival gaming show to Game Network and stuff like that. So he's got some interesting stories. If you want to have him on, he'd be quite interesting.
Well, you mentioned an interesting point there about it's the personalities that you remember. We always remember like Dave Perry and Games Master. We remember like Big Boy Barry and you. It's kind of like I think it is quite. You're right, because often video games, especially journalists and stuff, they come out to life when they're writing on paper, but when you saw them on TV, they were just like dweebs. It's like
Well, I think Julia Rignall stood out in that, and Radion Automatic and his wacky hair. Stuff like that. But I can understand that. You do need a bit of personality to be sort of known on gaming and that.
How do you kind of feel about the current state of gaming television?
They've got sort of like Go 8-bit, and they've gone completely wrong direction by putting all these celebrities on. They have no interest in video games, so that's alienating the people who would want to watch the show, as well as having other people come on and say, well, what's the point of having somebody who's an expert on the show and that just. So they know what they're talking. So they should be getting people off the web to be on there and that,
Well, being mentioned on Screen Wipe must have kind of brought a warm glow to your heart.
No, absolutely, yes. I haven't spoken to Charlie Brooker for a while. Last time I spoke to him was when he retweeted my video about when Jeremy Clarkson was a video game journalist.
Oh, was he? I never knew that.
Oh, he was watch my video then. Yeah. He used to work for Amstrad Computer User. He used to write review. Well, actually done a sort of puff pieces really. So yeah, but I've done a video on his short term as a video game journalist. And
do you have the articles as well in the video?
I do, yes.
Yeah, wow. You'd just be able to reading them in Clarkson's voice, bring a whole new dimension to it, wouldn't it?
Hello, and welcome to... Today, I am reviewing Outrun.
But you mentioned like Charlie Brooker there, and Clarkson's a surprise. But there are quite a lot of people that have kind of got these Ian Lee's another one, isn't he? He's really into retro gaming, and these kind of mainstream personalities that you see that really are quite into it, kind of off the record.
Yeah. No, there is quite a bit. I remember we used to play Xbox Live quite a bit in the early, when it first come out, and we had Goldie come on, Goldie.
The drum and bass DJ guy.
Yeah, that's him, yeah. And he kept glitching in the game. We told him if you do it again, we'll kick him out, and he did. So we booted him. So I remember that, yeah.
So you've kicked Goldie.
I've kicked Goldie out of the game for cheating, yeah. We had a right go at him as well for that.
You invented jungle music, but we're still going to kick you.
Yeah. I only learned out. He lives about half a mile from my house as well now. So,
You always see those kind of forced media shots of like Vinnie Jones years ago holding a football game or something like that.
Oh yes, and what's his name? Empire and the Sun. Who's the guy who played Batman in the Batman trilogy?
I'm rubbish with Batman.
Anyhow, yeah, we've got loads of videos of pictures of him playing on an Amstrad while filming Empire of the Sun. Forgotten his name. Everybody's going to be screaming it out, aren't they, in the comments and stuff?
Well, another show you did, which was quite a unique series, was for Screwattack.com, and that was Games Yanks can't. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yes. Well, Stuttering Craig would come up with the name. He didn't know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to point it out what it means, and then he thought we'd just go with it anyway. So that's half the comments of every single video I've ever done on that series is why have you used that word and stuff like that. But yeah, no, that was a sort of getting out to Americans all these sort of games that we grew up on, which is something that's still lacking even 10 years later. Really, I mean, you don't really think many Americans talking about Jet Set Willy, do you?
Yeah, there's not much talk of the Euro scene or the kind of stuff that was going on here.
Well, that's why we started this podcast, isn't it? 'Cause all the rest were like covering NES and Atari, and that was it, really.
Yeah, no. I mean, even that Super Nintendo Mini that's coming out, all the games are under the American name, none of them under the British names. And half of the games, how can they be classics if half of them didn't even come out over here as well? I mean.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of false nostalgia we've got over here of everybody loving the Nintendo as a kids, and nobody did because it's a rich kid's toy. I mean, they want 70 quid for a game every time and stuff like that. And
I think sometimes, you chat to, you probably get the same in your YouTube videos, like younger people who are maybe, that they'll see stuff that we've covered and they'll be like, oh, I didn't know about that. They assumed that We just had Nintendos and that here, and they didn't know about the Spectrum and the Amiga and that kind of stuff.
Well, it's that's the sheer massive presence of American sort of retro gamers on YouTube that it has sort of given us a false nostalgia of a console that we never really had. Oh, actually, we had, but we couldn't afford. So yeah, that's quite weird. I've tried to hold the tie, but it's like sticking your fingers in a sort of leaking dam, really, isn't it? So.
Well, speaking of someone who's done a lot for British gaming over recent years, Stuart Ashen, I know he's a friend of yours.
Oh yes, I remember him. Yes.
How did you two meet then, and how did you start working together?
Basically, years and years ago, I wrote to him, hello, Stuart, I like your videos. Can we do a sub for sub? And he told me to piss off.
That's the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, that's how we started our friendship. Yeah, me asking if we could do a sub for sub. But we managed, we sort of got us talking from there, really.
Are there any other kind of big Europe-based podcasters you'd like to work with? Or YouTubers, sorry.
Actually, I've always wanted to go on this one, to be honest. And that's really, honestly, I saw in my mother's life that I really wanted to be on this one more than anything, this podcast.
Oh, bless
thank you.
But I can't
he says that to all of them.
Yeah.
No, I honestly can't think of any other podcasts, really, any other big European ones.
Well, I know you get back to Ashen's, his book that he brought out as well. I mean, the Terrible Old Games. I mean, how many of those were you familiar with when...
Well, I wrote one of them, so... I wrote the LA SWAT game. So, I wrote that article for his book, and also for his next book he's got coming out later this year. I did one on the Flintstones game.
Because I saw a great video on YouTube where he was launching it at some kind of museum, and people were coming up and playing the rubbish games. And, he was just saying, this is how rubbish they are. It was great.
I think it's like a perverse sort of addiction to like playing rubbish games. The Japanese actually do it. It's called kusoge.
It's got a name.
The enjoyment of playing terrible video games, yeah.
There is something quite fascinating about it, though, isn't it? It's like you look at a lot of these games, you think, how on earth did this get released?
That's what I wonder. How can you spend 18 months making a game knowing that it's rubbish?
Yeah.
I mean, people put, you say it's your job's worth and just doing it for the paycheck and that, but surely have some sort of soul that some poor kid's going to spend 40 quid and it's rubbish. So luckily, modern games aren't terrible now. I mean, it's very, very rare to have a generally bad game. When most people complain about a game being bad nowadays, it's just that it's unoriginal. It's just generic, like another first-person shooter and stuff like that, really. So we are quite lucky now. But then again, it's a multi-billion industry, and they can't afford to make a rubbish game nowadays, can they?
Well, one of your videos I really enjoyed was your special on Driver 3. That obviously was a pretty high-profile case of a game being terrible.
Well, I'm quite surprised everybody forgot about that. I mean, Future did such an amazing job of burying that story. I mean, I say burying it. I mean, they just got really, really lucky that it happened just before YouTube, Facebook, and Reddit really appeared. So it was quite easier to bury news like that in those days. But it's quite a fascinating story. It's a shame, really, because it could have been a really, really good game. If they gave it another 6 months to make, it would have been like a classic almost.
Well, they were hiring like stooges to go on forums, weren't they, and PR companies to like sign up as users and stuff.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, they weren't very good at pretending the fact they weren't stooges and that, because the only threads they ever go on was ones about Driver 3, and that sort of sticks out like a sore thumb after about 5 minutes that there's something going on. It's quite an interesting story, and also them, sort of paying off their magazine's sort of neuroticism of being the most, getting the views out there by giving them early access, as long as they give it 9 out of 10s and stuff like that. So that's quite an interesting story.
I wonder with the demise of kind of mainstream paper magazines, whether maybe is a good thing in that regard.
Well, it's just going on the internet now. I mean, it's still the same corruption just going on. It's just you read it on the website earlier than on paper, really. I mean, to be honest, I used to buy paper magazines to just get the free cover disc. Yeah, really. Especially in the Spectrum days, and that used to get a whole game and that. That was brilliant in those days.
Problem is with the internet, we find, especially when researching stories, kind of people just copy and copy and copy the information, and it's like 20 copies of the same thing,
And it turns into Chinese whispers as well after a while, We've altered them more times that somebody has to reiterate the same information.
Well, they seem like, video games that I remember being quite well respected when I was a kid. And actually I thought, that's a pretty good game. And then one YouTuber might say it's crap. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, everyone thinks it's a dreadful game. And it's like, we didn't think that back in the day.
I know, it's just a sort of a sheep mentality, that is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being quite upset when the AVGN said the Mega Drive version of Ghostbusters was a terrible game. And if all it was is him blaming his own not being very good at the game, there's flaws of the game. So I remember that being quite upsetting for me. So yeah, but no, there's a load of games that I thought was really good as a kid, and everybody goes, "It's a rubbish game. I'd rather stick an elephant up my urethra," and stuff. The usual rubbish they always come up with, stuff like that. But yeah.
But also, I guess we were stuck with those games when we were younger. If they were really rubbish, we'd have to make it fun,
For months, you had to learn to love things after a while as well. And we really haven't sort of read. You couldn't really rent Spectrum games and Amstrad games and that, could you? So we didn't have that luxury until sort of consoles became more prevalent, sort of in the early 90s.
Yeah, and if you got a game, I mean, you just sit there and you had no internet. Like you said, you had no other games. You just sit there and you'd learn to like it.
I wouldn't even read the manual.
Yeah. When you do kind of exposés like that, do you ever hear from the people like who are involved in the game and like kind of give their side of the story?
I heard from Future.
All right, okay.
They wrote to me, yes. Do you know what they did? They offered me a job.
Wow.
So yeah, I thought, oh my God, they're going to give me a cease and desist, tell me to take it down for slander or libel or something like that. No, but they offered me a job instead, so I was quite taken back by that. I'm slowly getting sort of messages from the people I talk about sometimes. A lot of them are sort of like slightly disgruntled about things they had in the past, so they're telling me all these anecdotes. So I'm sort of slowly building up a database of all these sort of stories to try and evolve into episodes.
That's amazing. So, Fact Hunt, for people that haven't seen it, you should absolutely check it out. That must be your most popular series.
It is. That's sort of made me explode my channel in recent times and that.
Do you ever find out stuff that like really surprises you when you do it?
Quite a lot. I've got quite a good one coming up in the next episode about why Highlander is such a terrible game. I'll tell you now, but it's probably not going to come out for a while. Basically, Ocean used to try and grab hold of the rights of any sort of movie coming out.
Yeah.
And they were so desperate to get the rights of Highlander, they sort of agreed to some really unrealistic royalty fees. So they've worked out that if the game done really well, they'd actually go bankrupt from the royalties they'd have to pay. They purposely made the game so nobody would buy it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like Blue Monday, when they were losing money on every copy of Blue Monday, and then it became like one of the biggest records, and they were just like, no.
It must be those kind of things that you find out, though, and you're like, that can't be true. And then when you do a bit more digging, you're like, really?
No, they're definitely true, and I've got like testimonies and stuff like that. So. Yeah, no, I just love the anecdote stuff. It's what nobody talks about and that. I mean, there's countless other sort of top 10s and listicles on YouTube, but they're always a sort of like top 10, Super Nintendo games and stuff like that. So it's basically based on opinion, most of these, rather than fact. So I love finding these old anecdotes on the internet and stuff like that. Old gaming magazines are absolute goldmine because it's information that's not on the internet, but still out there.
A lot of the mags are on like archive.org and stuff, aren't they?
So it's quite easy. I mean, it's just a case of looking sort of like a second level of the internet, really, for information. This is, but yeah, there's loads of great stories on there and that. And there's also, it's great for hindsight stuff of stuff that never came out and things.
Yeah, I looked through quite a lot of old magazines, and I'm like, Jesus, they were going to release that? Oh, what is this? And there's projects you've never heard of.
Yeah. It's amazing. So, and nobody's sort of covering it. It's the weirdest thing. Except me.
Well, that's the thing. From your videos, you'll always learn something. You watch a Guru Larry video, you always come away with, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. No, that's the sole purpose. I mean, I think people get a kick out of learning something new just as much as sort of watching a video, really. So Peter Molyneux hasn't been in touch? No, he did actually. When I started doing stuff on television, Retrocorn, he actually done a cameo for a couple of episodes as well. So he actually has technically been in some videos of mine officially. So yeah, but no, he's never said anything. I don't think he's probably. I mean, there's probably somebody out there going, "Oh, look, there's some guy making fun of you on these videos and that," but. But he's never actually physically said anything to me. You always wait for the mention in your videos. When's Peter coming into it then? Here he is. I'd love to do that one day. Maybe I can try and get around it. See if I can talk to his manager or something. Get me the cameo. So is there any other companies or products that you've had maybe ideas of covering but you need to find out more, or anything that has just been a bit too obscure and you haven't been able to find out anything about? There's some sort of rumours and stuff like that I like to sort of follow up on, see if they're true or not. Mm-hmm. So that's the main thing. But no, it's just a case of trying to get any information out there and then building up sort of the story about them and see what's true and what's not. Because a lot of them is, like I said, it's just rumours and stuff like that. And any you've kind of been scared to cover in case of getting sued or anything like that? Yes, I did write a game.
There is an episode of Fact Hunt I've written. It's three games endorsed by paedophiles.
No way.
Oh God.
So yeah, I got that one. So that's one I'm too scared to put out really at the moment. But yeah, it's like there's a Jimmy Savile video game.
Is it really?
Oh my God.
I remember there's the Rolf Harris paint package thing.
Yeah, that's it. And the other
one
one was Stuart Hall. It's Knockout.
Yeah, they don't feature in many YouTubers' videos these days.
No,
weirdly
it's
enough.
strange, that isn't it? Yeah. Well, then again, they are sort of British celebrities, and Americans sort of don't really care unless they've been in Doctor Who or Red Dwarf. So that's all they care about. Yeah.
Are there any other YouTubers you kind of really rate?
No, they're all rubbish. No one's as good as me, I'm afraid.
I am king.
I don't know. I quite like a lot of non-gaming stuff. I mean, there's a guy called Oddity Archive, and he reviews sort of the rise of sort of early things like how pay TV became about, and sort of box office channels and that from America. And it's like the early days, they literally just took a camera into the local cinema and filmed it, and then streamed it to everyone in the local area. That's what original box office television was. So he's quite good, and he does a lot of sort of technology that failed as well, sort of nanny boxes and stuff like that. And remember the older web TV boxes as well used to get sort of stuff like that. So apparently you can mod them into Linux computers now. Apparently.
Oh, really? Well, I guess you're just a computer, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they are computers. Yeah. They got. I mean, the main problem with them is they got no sort of hard drive space to sort of save anything on. So you've got to work with what's internal memory, really.
Yeah, not the fastest computer, probably. You wouldn't use it for Bitcoin mining.
No. The thing would melt. So yeah, no, I love channels like that. Obviously, Dan Ibbotson, who helps me out with videos and stuff like that, he's quite good. DJ Slopes Room, he does a lot of the complete histories of stuff. Also, Kim Justice, she does quite some good retrospective stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, these are just fellow Brits I'm thinking of. I think a lot of American channels, there's not too many sort of retrospective stuff now. It's more of people showing off what stuff they've bought on eBay now.
Really. Yeah. You're right about Kim and Nostalgia Nerd as well. We've had them both on our show.
Okay, yes.
They do great, in-depth videos as well, don't they?
Yeah.
I think GameSack out of the American ones they have a bit of a focus at looking back.
So what is it about retro that you still enjoy then? What keeps bringing you back to it?
I think now it's the stories about it's like, when you're a kid, you just like playing the games, but to learn the stories of how they came to be in that is quite fascinating for me. And if you look at a game again, you can see what went into sort of working and stuff like that. So I find that quite interesting. But no, I think it's, I just enjoy older games, really. Given a choice, I prefer modern gaming. I mean, I'm a bit sad like that, but because I've always said, if you went back in time 20, 30 years and that, and if you could offer yourself either a Super Nintendo or a PlayStation 4, what would you go for?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think everybody does prefer modern gaming in that extent, given the choice. But I do. No, I just like it for the sort of it's nostalgia as well, I suppose. Really, yes.
Have you got quite a big collection yourself then of consoles and games?
I have, yes. It's bordering on the hoarder sort of mentality now. I mean, I'm sort of millimeters away from collecting bottles full of Pepsi full of my own Wii and stuff like that.
Crystal Pepsi or Tab Clear?
Yeah. I'm currently collecting debug development kit consoles as well.
Oh, wow.
Because they're really cheap at the moment. Most people don't know what they are, so they see this sort of PlayStation 2 development kit console and they think, oh, it's a really expensive PlayStation 2, that guy's having a laugh, and then just go past it and they get another one, a normal PlayStation. So they are quite collectible for me at the moment as well.
And they're always interesting. You think what you're going to find on the hard disk, or there could be some long forgotten code on there.
Oh, there could be. I bought a crate load of old hard drives for one of them recently. I need to go through them and that. I mean, hopefully there's an unfinished game. I got an Australian friend called Freako. He found a half-finished copy of the PlayStation 3 version of Until Dawn when it was like a survival horror game.
Oh, no way.
So yes, that's what he found on it. So there are stuff out there,
hidden treasures.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I remember seeing I don't want to bring back any bad memories, an awful picture of you losing a load of games and systems when your shed leaked years ago.
Yes,
that must have been heartbreaking.
Well, it's more upsetting for me because those are the games I had from when I was a kid, so it's more of a sentimental value rather than a monetary value. it'd been there for quite a while before I noticed, because some of the cardboard boxes on the Nintendo games have got so wet they'd literally turned into mud.
God.
Oh, God. And they kind of soaked it all up, yeah.
it's
Dan showed me
awful.
the picture. I was horrified.
Yeah, it didn't look nice.
I've got a box full of sort of rusted, corroded Nintendo 64 games and stuff like that. And so they'll be put out and stuff like that. So people wanted me to show them to like museums and stuff. So
You've even kept them.
So, yeah. But yeah, so they're literally, some of them are lethal because they're covered in verdigris now, so I can't even touch them with my bare hands anymore.
God, yeah. Put them in quarantine.
So it's quite freaky how bad games can get and the quality, the damage of them.
You've recovered from that now, though, Larry.
Yeah, I've got most of the games back. I mean, there's like a couple of PC Engine games I'm missing, but that's about it, really.
Well, are there any new series or projects that you'd like to do or you've got in mind for your channel?
Well, I'm still going to be doing more fact hunts. I've slowly building up a team of people to help me make them now. I've got, do you know a guy called Kieran Hawken? He's actually a writer for Retro Gamer magazine. He's going to be helping me write scripts and that, and I'm getting a couple of people to help edit stuff and that. So hopefully Fact Hunt's going to be a more regular show. I mean, ultimately, I like it to be like a weekly series, but that's almost getting there at the moment. But at the moment, I'm working on a new retrospective series. It's going to be partially animated as well. And so I'm going to sort of fund it myself for the first few episodes and see how popular it is. And if it is, I'm going to take it to Kickstarter, and then we'll be able to get the original voice actors for the game characters to be involved in it. I did actually used to do artwork for the video game industry about 15, 20 years ago. I've done a lot of Daytale's artwork for their Game Boy Advance Action Replay and stuff like that in their magazine they had out for a while called GBX. I've done some artwork for Rockstar Games and Bundy. I did it for Oni. Don't remember that game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've done a couple of homebrew stuff and that. And anything sort of stuff you find in the bargain bin in Tesco's. That's what my artwork is there. So I used to do artwork in the industry once before and that, but I'd like to get back into it again. I just want to do sort of more creative thing, really.
Well, you like to keep busy, Larry.
Well, yes. There's something. I hate being bored. But when I get bored and have nothing to do, all I do is just sleep all the time. And I get this vicious cycle of not wanting to get up anymore and that. So yeah, when I get bored, I get sleepy. So I just kind of get the energy flowing and stuff like that.
Well, everyone should help keep Larry awake and check out his YouTube channel if you haven't already.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, Larry, it's been amazing talking to you and sharing your stories with us. We really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and keep up the good work on the channel.
Absolutely, thank you.
And I'm going to catch up with Head to Head on your channel.